Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelly if you are new. This is a channel all about books, but we don't stop at the book reviews. We talk about everything here and we do a lot of commentaries. And today we're peeling back the curtain on one of the publishing industry's best kept or worst kept secrets? I don't know. And that is ghostwriting. From celebrity memoirs to debut novels, ghostwriters are often the invisible hands behind best selling books, and many celebrity books are shaped by these unseen hands. But how much of the work is truly theirs is a question that most people have. Today, we're going to be exploring, let's say, this fascinating world through recent examples like Willow Smith's Black Shield Maiden and Millie Bobby Brown's 19 Steps, because I feel like they had some of the most engaging conversations around this topic. But before we go into our commentary, I want to introduce a new segment. For now, I definitely think I'm going to go further with this, but because I do not always have space to do reviews as a separate video on the channel, and I still want to give you guys reviews and recommendations of books you should be picking up or books you're probably wondering about, I want at the beginning of every video to give you maybe a 60-90 second review of a book that I'm reading, so that you can get a bit more insight and maybe think, I'm going to pick up this book as well. And we're starting today. So our first book review of the year, or technically second book review, but the first book review of the segment is 47 Ronin. Now, I know that there's a movie based on this book, but I have never watched it. The concept always sounded so interesting to me, but I never watched it. I put it on my watch list. And so when I found out that it was based on a book, obviously I'm gonna go for the book. And so essentially this is about feudal time Japan, technically the end of the feudal times and basically the end of the samurai. Now these troop of samurai, they follow their daimyo, which is basically their leader, their head of their house, and they're extremely loyal to him. And basically their daimyo gets killed, or he gets sentenced to seppuku, which is honorable killings in Japan. So if you committed a crime but it was honorable in some way, they will allow you to die the death of a samurai, which is basically literally killing yourself. It is intense. I've definitely done a lot of research into seppuku, so it's always insane to me that this was a tradition back in those days. But their feudal lord gets sentenced to do seppuku because he assaulted another lord, a higher lord, in the emperor's castle when they were having an event, and there's a lot of backstory to that in the book anyway. And the Ronin, because once you don't have a master that you're serving as a samurai, you are categorized as a Ronin because you're not serving anyone. And so they become Ronin. And so the head of the samurai now, Ronin of that clan, they've now summoned every single person to tell them this is what has happened to our leader, and our leader has also been sentenced to have all of his belongings taken, and he had a wife and kids, and they're really, really close with the leader of the samurai. But the samurai, they're incensed and they want their revenge, and so they're just like, we need our revenge. And so basically this book is their revenge story, but it is so intricate. They take their time. They are meticulous with their planning because they're just like, we do not want to risk the wife of our daimyo. We do not want to risk his children. We need to actually ensure that the revenge that we're taking is the absolute last step. He is very, very calm. He's very, very demure, so to say. He doesn't want to act in a heated manner out of emotion, whereas everyone else, they're just ready to act on emotion and get revenge for their leader because they're so incensed. In this book, I really, really loved it. I thought the storytelling was so lovely. It was slow paced, and if you know me, I don't like slow paced books, but I enjoyed it because of the storytelling. This book did not sacrifice storytelling. It did not sacrifice cultural retelling, like proper cultural retelling for the sake of getting people hyped up. It honored the Japanese culture of back in the day, or even that culture of the end of an era of the samurai. And I really, really appreciated that. And I loved how it explored the themes of honor and loyalty and vengeance. I also loved how they showed us the lens of the samurai, the lens of people in that time when it came to topics like that. They held it to such a high regard, held loyalty, held honor to such a high regard, that honor killings were never strange to them. And the things that these people would sacrifice simply to behave in a way which is known to be honorable, not even as a samurai, but as a person. It was insane. And the different parts of this book, I was definitely going through it because it was so slow paced. I was really just ready for them to march up there and kill everybody. I was in it for the revenge plot. I won't even lie to you. But there was a lot of underlying issues that had to be dealt with first, and they went through every single one of them. They also went through the conflicting emotions of the main lead, as he's also angry and he also wants to claim vengeance for his daimyo, but he is still an honorable samurai, even though he doesn't even technically hold a title anymore, because like I said, they're Ronin. And so this story just goes through everything that they're going through, the planning, ups and downs, the losses that they have to go through, the grieving that they have to do, not just for the loss of their leader and their household and their structure that they had, but even the loss of what they're used to in terms of like era changing. And there's literally a lot of relationships that get tested, relationships that get severed because of everything that they go through. And at the end of it all, even people who were loyal to the leader don't end up going all the way to the end, because it is a long wait, guys. It is told in the span of like 2 years. And so his household, which had hundreds of samurai, dwindles down to just a few who are fully committed to sticking it out once they get the go-ahead by their samurai leader that this is the right thing to do. We've exhausted every other option. And by the end, the only like number that's left is 47. And so you have the 47 Ronin who go and seek out vengeance for their leader. And it was so good, guys. It was so good. It really makes me like really want to watch the movie, but I feel like there are some parts of this book that definitely frustrated me, and I understand that some parts of this book are related to the culture of the time, and I'm just like, I sympathize, I empathize, I understand, but I just don't know if it could be me. And so I'm just like, I feel like if I watch the film, I will get frustrated all over again. And also, I grieved with them. So it was definitely like an emotional book, a book that I enjoyed, the slow pacing. I enjoyed taking my time with it and going through everything and understanding all of their emotions, and even getting more insight into how they view those themes of honor and loyalty. And yeah, I thought it was great. So definitely, if you like historical fiction, if you've ever been interested in honor, loyalty, if you have watched this movie and you liked it, go read the book, because we know that the book is always better. But I know I said I was going to do a 90-second review, and this has definitely gone into like 5-6 minute territory. I'm so sorry. Let us go back to doing our commentary. But before we get into them, I want us obviously first to define ghostwriting, because it can be something that someone hasn't really heard of or doesn't know too much about. And to put it simply, ghostwriters are professional writers hired to craft books, speeches, or article under someone else's name, basically for someone else. And while this practice is actually common in publishing, it often sparks quite a lot of debate about authenticity and transparency, which is fair. See, in the literary world, this practice, it has become particularly contentious when celebrities release their books under their names, because something that it doesn't sit right with a lot of people, and it prompts those debates about authenticity, authorship, and transparency. And so today what we're doing is exploring the complexities of ghostwriting, especially for celebrity authors, and we're going to be focusing on these recent examples involving Millie Bobby Brown and Willow Smith. See, for a lot of celebrities, using a ghostwriter and writing a book, it's a way to expand their brand into the publishing world, because honestly, it is a huge market. And while some celebrities definitely openly credit their collaborators, those who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, others keep their ghostwriters entirely behind the scenes. And this is where a lot of people take issue, because this lack of transparency, it leaves a lot of readers feeling misled. Now, I want us first and foremost to really just go a bit more into ghostwriting so that we can properly understand it. Now, ghostwriting involves a writer producing work that is officially credited to another individual. Now, this arrangement is common in autobiographies and memoirs, and surprisingly for a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually common in fiction, especially when the credited author lacks the time, the skills, or the experience to write the material themselves. So while the ghostwriter remains anonymous or receives minimal acknowledgement, the credited author receives a lot. They benefit from the content's publication and the associated prestige that comes along with it. Now, the thing is, there is a huge prevalence of celebrity ghostwritten works. Like, many celebrities have released books that were, in fact, ghostwritten. And I feel like when I first realized this, or first came to this knowledge, or came to this fact, it was like a child when they finally realized that Santa Claus isn't real. Now, that being said, I just want to put this here. I never believed in Santa Claus. My parents never allowed me to believe in a white man climbing into our house delivering gifts. It was just never a thing. Never a thing. Especially considering we didn't really get gifts for Christmas, so they couldn't have me believing that, because why would they now leave? Why would this man now leave me out of the mix? Was I naughty? I definitely was not a naughty child. So yeah, I never believed in Santa Claus. But yeah, finding out that a lot of books were ghostwritten, it definitely pulled, it hurt. It was just like, so this book that I like, did you write it or did you not? It was something for me. But yeah, this practice of ghostwriting, it allows public figures to capitalize on their fame by entering the literary market without necessarily possessing the requisite writing skills. Notable examples include autobiographies and novels attributed to celebrities but penned by professional writers behind the scenes. Now, it's worth noting that ghostwriting isn't limited to memoirs. Like I said, a lot of fiction books are actually fair game. Celebrities like Hilary Duff and even Kendall and Kylie Jenner, they have ventured into the YA fiction scene with significant help from co-authors. And I always find this term co-authors interesting when it comes to books that are written using a ghostwriter, because once again, the question is, how many of this book can be attributed to the author on the cover? And it's a question that is definitely running through the minds of a lot of people. But I want us to focus on the two examples that I gave, so that we can go a bit deeper on the controversies that have been happening around ghostwriting in recent years. Now, when I did my video on over 100 books by Black authors that you can pick up and read, I love that I did that because it was awesome, and I feel like I helped a lot of people find some new favorite authors. But one of the books I included with a side note was Black Shield Maiden by Willow Smith. I included it as a side note because Willow Smith is a Black woman, and so she wrote a book. And so she had to be attributed with the authorship. And so obviously I was going to include her on that list. The issue there was the fact that Willow's co-author was a white woman. Now, that wouldn't have been a problem with other co-authored books, but the issue here was the fact that this book was ghostwritten. And so it was a question of, did Willow write half? How much did she write? Was it fully ghostwritten? And so I included it in the list with an asterisk, which is why I wanted to discuss it today, just so that we can discuss this entire situation. Willow, her debut novel was this book. It was Black Shield Maiden, and the co-writer, which is considered the ghostwriter in this situation, is Jeff Hendel. The book is a historical epic about Yafu. I might be pronouncing that name wrong, forgive me. A Ghanaian warrior kidnapped from her homeland and thrust into the Viking world. Honestly, the book itself, when you hear it, you're just like, this sounds amazing, because it combines African and Viking folklore into an ambitious narrative. And the thing is, with this situation, this is different from a lot of ghostwriting situations, because Willow was very, very transparent about Handel's involvement, and she gave Handel credit on the cover, which is very, very rare. It's not something you see when a book has been ghostwritten, co-authored by a ghostwriter. I don't know how to really say this. And so it was really an interesting situation for me when it first came about. But this is where the situation got sticky, because only Willow was featured prominently in the promotional tours, the interviews, the media appearances. So this dynamic, it highlights how celebrity status often overshadows the contributions of ghostwriters, even if they're credited. Because most ghostwriters aren't credited, which is why a lot of people feel as though they're being misled. But in this situation, Willow was very, very... She did something that's not too common in the ghostwriting part of the industry, and she credited the author not just like in interviews, but putting in the author's name on the book alongside hers. But beyond that, we didn't really hear that much about Jess Hendel. We didn't really see her on the promotional tours that much. We didn't see her on the interviews and media appearances. We didn't. And so Black Shield Maiden definitely had its fair share of controversy, especially then. I remember in 2022, there was an excerpt from the novel, which sparked backlash for its portrayal of Muslim Amazigh traders as dangerous and perpetuating stereotypes. So the controversy, it delayed the book's release by nearly 2 words, with revisions being made. Now, one thing I will say about this is I like how they responded and how they handled the situation. A lot of authors would have really just let it slide. A lot of publishers would have just sat there and just been like, it's just a few people who don't like it, and they would have just let it slide. But in this situation, they actually said, well, time to change it up a bit so that we can actually be respectful to the comments that we received and to the backlash that we actually received. And I respected that they did that. But this incident, it does underscore how celebrity books can face heightened scrutiny. Because one thing I will say is there have been definitely a lot of books where it can be said that, okay, there are stereotypes all over this book, but people didn't actually make as many comments. A lot of celebrities, they will face more scrutiny, not just for the content, but also for how they handle sensitive cultural topics. I will definitely say that. I'm not going to be completely biased in this, because I can definitely see that they get more scrutiny. The celebrity authored books, they definitely get more scrutiny than regular books. And I think it's because people are already upset that it's a ghostwritten book, so now they're definitely going to be way more nitpicky with the book itself. That brings us to Millie Bobby Brown's book, 19 Steps. Now, this is another recent example, and it's another debut novel, and this was released in 2023, and she released her book, 19 Steps, and it was inspired by her grandmother's experiences during World War II. Now, the book faced criticism when it was revealed that it was ghostwritten by author Kathleen McGirl. Now, this is what I was saying. A lot of people, they criticized her simply because it was ghostwritten. Now, the book was co-authored, co-written, however you want to consider a ghostwritten book, by Kathleen McGirl. But Millie Bobby Brown, she openly credited McGirl as her collaborator. The thing is, though, that despite this transparency, a lot of people, a lot of readers criticized her for not writing the book herself. And once again, it's a reaction that reveals the lingering stigmas around ghostwriting, especially when it comes to celebrity publishing. Because let's be honest, guys, celebrities are not the only authors who ghostwrite books or who have a ghostwriter in the background writing a big chunk of the content in the book. They're not the only ones, and I feel like people need to actually be honest about that. A lot of your favorite authors, a lot of, some of their books, a big chunk of it might be ghostwritten, and y'all gotta be honest to yourselves about that. Critics also argue that Millie Bobby Brown's, her prominent authorship credit with minimal acknowledgement of McGirl's contributions misled the readers once again about the book's true authorship. Once again, the main argument when it comes to books which are ghostwritten in full or in part. And it reignited debates about the ethics of ghostwriting, especially when it comes to celebrity publications. Now, with that being said, let us actually look into the ethical considerations in ghostwriting. Now, the ethics in ghostwriting remain a hot topic. It's always been a hot topic. See, and one of the reasons is because while authors like Willow Smith and Millie Bobby Brown, they've credited their collaborators, their co-writers, co-authors. I honestly don't know what to call them sometimes. There are other celebrities. A recent example is Prince Harry and his memoir, Spare. He faced a lot of criticism for how he downplayed the ghostwriter's role. Now, that, in terms of like him downplaying, what I mean by that is the fact that while J.R. Moringer, the person who was his ghostwriter, he was widely acknowledged as the ghostwriter after the release of the book, his name was notably absent from promotional materials and press coverage, which is why a lot of people were just like, Harry, it's your memoir. Yes, it's your story, but let's be honest about who really wrote it. But the thing is, it's a very, very common practice when it comes to memoirs and autobiographies to put the name of the person who it's about instead of the co-writer, collaborator, ghostwriter, however you want to call it. But the thing is, Critics argue that failing to disclose a ghostwriter's involvement deceives readers, as we've said before, because it undermines the authenticity of the work. And the lack of transparency can lead to a perception of dishonesty, as audiences may feel entitled really to know the true source of the content which they consume. That's not the only conversation around ethics when it comes to ghostwriting. It's not just about the transparency and the honesty. There's also this conversation around the exploitation of writers. See, there are concerns that the ghostwriters, who are the co-authors but really do the bulk of the work, there are concerns that they're being exploited because they receive a lot of times minimal compensation and definitely minimal recognition, while the celebrity in question, they reap the financial, the reputational benefits of it all. And so this dynamic, it perpetuates a really big power imbalance within the publishing industry, where labor of skilled writers is undervalued. And we have definitely seen that. We've had a mini conversation on this before. And when you look at that, you're thinking, that's actually true. How much are these ghostwriters being compensated? Are they getting 50% of money at least, considering that they might have written 50% of the book? But no, the rates are nowhere near that. And you might be thinking, that's not fair. And once again, that's the whole conversation behind this. I don't really know like the full rates of the industry, especially recently, but they do not make half of it. And beyond that, there was a book that I read recently. It was really, really amazing. And it definitely had some commentary around this topic that I thought was really, really smooth how they were able to include that in there. But this topic came across really well because not just the financial compensations, but the actual reputational compensation. As a writer, you do not have the reputation of a celebrity. You might actually be struggling to make it as a writer in the wider scale market, but then you're looking at your writing being praised because someone else's face is on it. And imagine how an author feels to have their book not receive recognition at all, their writing be brushed aside, but then in another breath praised by someone else. Honestly, I'd be upset. I'd really be upset. And there's also this impact on like literary merit, because the use of ghostwriters by celebrities, it leads to questions a lot of times about the literary quality of the work, because some argue that such practices prioritize marketability over genuine literary contribution, which potentially dilutes the overall quality of published literature. And what a lot of people mean by that is, you, instead of signing someone who can write well, you sign someone who has power in the face, as in they're popular. And so that they're going to sell because someone's going to buy their books. And then you're losing out on just quality content that another author could write of their own story. So you're hiring this ghostwriter who's good at writing and who potentially has a great story to offer. But instead, you are focusing on what story the celebrity has to offer because they can sell more. And in our last video, we spoke on marketing in the publishing world and the toxic side of it, and how it can really just be so aggressive and all of the systemic issues within it. And here it is once again appearing in this topic of ghostwriting, and it's really just sad when you think about it. We have to actually think about publishing. Publishing, once again, guys, is a business. And so this is just another side of that business. There is a business in ghostwriting. I know a lot of people have really just decided, you know what, I can make a good living out of being a ghostwriter instead of trying to fight my way into the publishing industry as just a writer on my own. You also have to think about, why do so many celebrities rely on ghostwriters? And the answer is actually it's really, really easy. Branding and marketability. A best-selling book can actually elevate a public figure's career while allowing them to focus on other ventures that they are actually more passionate about. These celebrities, let's be real, like a lot of them, come on, if you were passionate about writing, you would have gone down that avenue, or really might have put more focus on it at an earlier stage in your career, or even say, I'm taking a break from acting to focus on this. No, you don't really have that passion for writing, and let's be honest about it. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But you writing a book puts your name out there more, puts your face out there more. It's great for you. It's great for branding. It's great for marketability. And so we understand the business side of why so many celebrities are writing books, not just memoirs and autobiographies, but like venturing into fiction books. We understand the business side of it. So for publishers, like working with celebrities, it guarantees built-in audiences as well. I can't blame a publisher for wanting to work with a celebrity or wanting to publish a celebrity's book. That celebrity comes in with their own audience already, who loves their movies and would like to hear their voice in something else, 100%. And it comes with the media coverage as well. When Harry's book came out, the media coverage was lit. Come on, guys. Everyone was ready. And obviously because of certain excerpts in the book, TikTok was blowing up. TikTok was blowing up. And so it's not even weird that publishing will take advantage of ghostwriters if that's how they're going to get celebrities to write books and come with their audiences. I understand it. But it definitely means that there's going to be more of a priority on marketability over literary merit, and that's so unfortunate. But while we're out here saying there are so many issues regarding transparency, authorship, ethics, we can speak about that, but ghostwriting is still very, very prevalent, and I don't think it's going anywhere if you're asking me personally. And the reason why is ghostwriting will always have its own defenders. Everything that you can argue against will definitely have their defenders for. So let's actually look into, when it comes to people defending ghostwriting, the practice, the business, all of it, where are they coming from? Because we really do have to look at both sides of the coin, let's be honest. And one of the biggest defenses for ghostwriting is the collaborative creation side of things, because proponents argue that ghostwriting, it is a form of collaboration, which is why they call them co-authors, the collaborators with them on their books. Because the collaboration is the fact that the celebrity comes in, they provide ideas, they provide their experiences, and they provide the direction that they want the book to go. And the ghostwriter offers writing experience to bring the project to fruition. Now, this partnership can result in works that effectively convey the celebrity's intended message or story. And the thing is, one of the main defenses for ghostwriting is the fact that at the end of the day, it is an industry norm. Ghostwriting is actually a very, very long-standing and accepted practice within publishing, especially for autobiographies and memoirs. And when it comes to autobiographies and memoirs, the reason why it's so widely accepted is because many readers are very aware that their celebrities may not have the time or the skill to write a book independently and accept ghostwriting as a practical solution. You are an actor, you are a sports person, you are a politician. You are not a writer, but you have a story to tell. Many people accept that that is the fact, and they want to hear those stories. Like, let's be honest, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela had one of the best stories to tell. He had one of the very best stories to tell that we want to hear. But let's be honest, we don't know if he had the literary merit. That's not to say that he wouldn't have been a great writer if he wrote the entire book on his own, but that's not where his focus was on. Honestly, he was doing a lot of work. I'm just like, let's be honest, this man has too many things going on right now to be focusing on telling us a story. The story is impactful and we want to hear it, yes. There's a market that wants to hear his story. But for some people, that's not where their focus is at. For David Beckham was playing football, raising a family. He was doing a lot. I don't think his focus was on writing a book. That being said, I don't know if he's written a book. I actually don't know. I just using that as an example of a person who would have a reason to write a book because their story is so like great and people would want to hear it. But that doesn't mean that they have the means or even the desire to tell it themselves. They probably definitely want to tell their story, but to actually sit down and write a book, because do you guys know the effort that goes into writing a book? Probably can't do that. But one of the main arguments for ghostwriting is actually the fact that people focus on content, because some suggest that the focus should be on the content's value rather than the authorship process. So really the argument is that if a book provides insight, entertainment, or information, then the means by which it is created should be considered secondary. And I've heard quite a lot of people fall on this side of the argument, and it's actually been really, really interesting to see that a lot of people fall on this side, because it actually makes complete sense. It makes complete sense if you think about it. People are just like, you know what? The book is coming to me and I enjoyed it. The book is coming to me and I learned. Okay? It makes sense to them. I'll say it makes sense to them, because to me, I'm just like, the author needs credit. I'm so sorry. The person who wrote the book, who did the work, needs credit. But I can see where their defense is at. And we actually have to think about the role of publishers and literary agents, because when it comes to publishing, obviously they play a significant role in facilitating everything. So when it comes to ghostwriting, they play a significant role in facilitating the ghostwriting arrangements. And so when it comes to celebrities, they often match celebrities with a suitable ghostwriter, and they negotiate the contracts and outline the terms of collaboration, compensation, confidentiality. Because come on now, you think if I wrote this big star's book, you think I wouldn't be out, I wrote this book, but obviously there has to be confidentiality, fair compensation, but a lot of people are arguing against that. That's not fair. Yeah, so the industry's approach to these arrangements can influence public perception and acceptance of ghostwritten works. I think because the ghostwriting happens so much in a hush-hush environment, that gives way to the what we find today, the fact that people don't accept it. The fact that a lot of books are ghostwritten and we don't know. I feel like that a lot of people, that's why they don't accept it, because everything is done in a very, very secretive manner. And so once again, it feels like readers are being tricked, being deceived. And that's why it has this perception of just being this really harmful situation. Also, once again, there is the whole ethics with how the ghostwriters are being treated in terms of like the promotion, the compensation. There's a lot of that going on. But when you hear all of this, you actually have to go back to my previous point about the defense for ghostwriting, because obviously some people say that the focus should be on the content, but that's some people. Now, those some people can be critics and people who work in the literary industry themselves, but what about the readers themselves, consumers? What do readers think? It's really hard to kind of find what readers think, because it's usually someone making a blog post or a video. It's not like research has been really, really done about like what people think, but it's more so looking into, in previous instances where a ghostwritten book has been revealed, how have people reacted? Obviously, we've seen in recent years with the Millie Bobby Brown incident and the Willow Smith incident, we saw that there was definitely a lot of backlash and that there is more scrutiny. But surprisingly, that doesn't always happen. The revelation that a book is a ghostwritten book, it affects readers' perception, that's for sure, because it potentially leads to the skepticism about the work's authenticity. But many readers actually remain indifferent, especially if the content meets their expectations, because some readers, just like I mentioned before, they argue that as long as the story is compelling, it doesn't matter who wrote it. And obviously, we know that others feel deceived when they discover that their favorite author, their favorite celebrity, didn't actually pen every word of the book. Now, this is actually really interesting, because when doing the research and seeing that a lot of people were on that side of, as long as the content is good, I don't care. It reminded me of a conversation that was had in one of the episodes in The Big Bang Theory years ago. Now, this is one of my favorite shows, so obviously I know all the episodes and I've rewatched them several times. But it was in the earlier seasons where Leonard, who is an experimental physicist, he had an idea. And he, presented the idea to Sheldon, who is a theoretical physicist and, who does all the numbers and all of that. And they were just like, okay, we can collaborate on this paper. They wanted to write a research paper on the idea. And when the paper was written, Sheldon obviously gave himself, primary credit, so to speak, and then Leonard the secondary credit. And then the conversation was about, okay, actually, who was meant to be the primary author in this? Sheldon argued, I wrote the paper. Like, I wrote most of it. I did the calculations. I get primary credit, of course. Whereas Leonard argued, it was my idea. It was my idea. Without my idea, you wouldn't have had the content to write. And so it's always this back and forth about which actually has primary standing when it comes to, in that situation, their research paper, but it's literally ghostwriting, which has primary status. Because the argument for celebrities writing more fiction books is the fact that obviously they're contributing their ideas, they're contributing experiences maybe, and then the ghostwriter does the writing. But then people are saying, which has primary status? The actual writing or the idea? Because the writer potentially wouldn't have anything to write without the content, the idea, that the celebrity is providing. But the celebrity wouldn't have any actual physical output without the effort of the writer themselves. Now, this is where I stand on this, because this is why I say it should be a 50-50 at bare minimum. And I won't even lie, sometimes I'm like, it should even be more percentage to the writer themselves, the ghostwriter. Because yes, you have the idea, 100%. But when you're writing, and I'm pretty sure you will definitely hear this from other writers. Yes, you write, but then after you write a first draft, there's so many stages of developmental editing that goes through, where your ideas are picked through with a fine-tooth comb, and you have to change so many things. So yes, that initial idea was mind-blowing and it was necessary, but even developing that idea and conveying every thought in a way that is representative of how you want that idea to be portrayed, that is the writer. So it is so difficult when this conversation comes about who deserves the credit or who deserves the most credit. It's really, really hard. But right now, as ghostwriting is done, I definitely say that there is problematic issues with it, because let's be real, we don't hear about the ghostwriters half the time. And yeah, it's definitely hard speaking about this topic, because it's a conversation that isn't had that much, because it's so common in the industry already. It's a common practice, and we know that. Just because it's a common practice doesn't mean that the common practice is done well. We all know this. And one thing I will say is, in terms of like how ghostwriting is received, the market impact varies as well. Because with some ghostwritten work, they achieve significant commercial success despite the controversies. But when it comes to things like this, transparency is actually very, very important. That's one thing we're seeing recently. It seems to resonate very well with readers. For instance, Tabitha Brown, she publicly praised her collaborator, ghostwriter, Tracy Lewis Giggets, for their work together. She said, "We did this together," and she publicly praised her, earning admiration from fans. But the thing is, I feel like that's also because Tabitha is so well loved that people received her well. I think the transparency definitely helps. So I think as more celebrities are entering publishing, transparency around the ghostwriting, it's becoming increasingly important, very much so. And so crediting the collaborators, like Willow Smith has done for Jeff Handel, and like Millie Bobby Brown did for Kathleen McGill, it sets a positive precedent for recognizing the contributions of ghostwriters. And so as we're going forward, one thing I will say is the conversation to be had here when it comes to ghostwriting, it doesn't end. There's so much more to be said, because the shift in giving them their due, it could pave the way for greater respect for ghostwriters as essential contributors rather than hidden figures. Because right now, is not looking cute the way that they do things. Honestly, as we're looking at all of this, one thing I really just want to say is the fact that the market doesn't do ghostwriting justice, because it is both a practical tool and a point of contention in publishing. I can definitely see the ethical contentious points, but I can also see the benefits of it as well if it's done well. I don't think it's been done the best recently, like ever really, but it is a practical tool. It very much is. And so whether you see it as deceptive or collaborative, that depends on you as a person, you as a reader, your perspective. Because the practice of ghostwriting, especially for celebrities, it occupies a complex space within the literary world, because it balances like ethical considerations, industry norms, and market demands, really. And so while it enables the production of works that might not otherwise exist, it also raises questions about the authenticity and the transparency and the authorship when it comes to books. And so as the industry is evolving, ongoing dialogue about the ethical implications of ghostwriting, that remains essential if we're going to make things better for the ghostwriters in question. And it remains essential if we're going to uphold the integrity of literary authorship, because honestly, they're not doing the best, because some of you guys will never know that your book was actually written by someone else. And that's not cute. That's not cute at all. But to me, like I said, it's something that I'm kind of like up and down with, because I can see the merits of ghostwriting, especially for celebrities, but I can see it in memoirs and autobiographies. When it comes to works of fiction, I know that ghostwriting isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon. But if you're going to be writing a work of fiction, I think there definitely needs to be more credit and definitely more compensation, from what I'm hearing, to ghostwriters, 100%, because they are putting in a lot of the heavy duty work. and so they need to be recognized. And that's just me. But guys, let me know, what do you think about ghostwriting? Do you think it should be scrapped? What are your stances on it? Because like I said, it's definitely complicated, but it's here to stay. If we can take anything from the industry, it's here to stay. But that's what, from my research and just from my thoughts, everything that I have to say on ghostwriting as of now. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments and we can continue the discussion there. But until then, I will see you guys soon. Bye.